with Andrea from Croatia, and we are on another episode of the Rider's DNA, Why We Ride. As I said, Andrea is from Croatia, from Split, which is on the Adriatic Ocean. She's a very hardcore rider. I've seen some of her footage. I'd like people to know who you are, to connect with you, and tell us a little bit about yourself. But before that, just remember, the Rider's DNA is about the rider, but it also talks about the other side of the rider. So what makes you tick? What are your passions? What are your adventures? What are your challenges? How you got where you are? And anything that you want them to know. So over to you.
Well, you said right, I'm Andrea, coming from the coastal city of Split in Croatia. Very cool place to live, I have to admit. We have all the places, all the different stuff in one place. Mountains, islands, coastline, the beaches, rivers, lakes. And I've always wanted to ride. Actually, it's been in my family from my mom's side, believe it or not. And I've been riding legally since 2003, since I was 16. Before that, I was
So
still
16 is the legal age to ride?
It used to be 20 years ago, but luckily now they upgraded the limit. You have to be older to get a full license for motorcycle. You have to you gradually get to it, which is a good thing, because getting a full motorcycle license at the age of 16 meant that I could ride like a GS 1250 at the age of 16. So luckily they changed it. I was among those, the last few years of those rules, so I've been riding ever since then. Well, off-road and traveling on a bike only the last 7 or 8 years, when I actually stopped studying, started working, so I could afford myself a proper motorcycle and actually afford to maintain it in a proper way. That's how it should be done. I did not want to ride seriously before that when I had like student jobs. So, there's tires to buy, there's oil to change, there's things to change and maintain on bikes, and it needs money. So
you run a tour company, right? And you take people all around Europe on bike trips?
It started only this year, like officially. It's called Fun Moto Adventures. And it started actually from my head. Since I'm a guide, I've been a travel guide and a tour guide since 2010. I realized actually all the things we have around here in Croatia. I would check at least the Google Maps, see what's around, and that's where I would ride. I had no idea what was the trail like, what was the road like. I would check, of course, but I did not have like a clear idea. So it was adventure. And then my friends, seeing it through my photos, would be like, where is this? Where did you find it? How did you find it? Simple. Check the Google Maps, read an article, go and see, share it with them, and then give them some recommendations or advices where to go riding, or even with their families for a vacation, for like a one-day trip. And that's how it all started, because I realized no one in Croatia is doing it. You have scooters to rent, you have big bikes to rent, nothing in the middle. That's where I came up with the small Hondas, 250, 300 CRF L or Rally, Canada also. There's one over here. There's one other. And basically, I kind of thought to myself, it's beautiful. I love Croatia. I love where I live. I love riding it all the time, not once, but I like coming back to this beautiful place, this beautiful landscape I saw. Why not share it with the people? To make it approachable to a wider range of people with not the big bikes like GS 650, 1250. I mean, I was starting from my own point of view. When I traveled, I did not want to rent a GS 650. I wanted to have a smaller bike. I took a small Honda 150 and I rode around Peru. I rode around Colombia, feeling perfectly confident while riding it because I knew I could lift it. I could park it anywhere without giving much thought and worry. What if? What if? So that's how it all started. Sparkled actually, and since this year, the tours have already started.
So we were talking the other day, and you told me a very interesting story about how you got your first bike and how you started riding. I'd like you to share that story with me.
You mean with stealing my mom's scooter? Actually, yes. I bought a small Honda Supermoto 650, and I would ride, take the roads, village roads, perfectly winding mountain roads in here. But then, as I would ride, I would take a look on the side, and there was like the off-road roads on the sides. Where do those go? And then I realized, yes, it is a road bike, but it was the only one I had. So I just go. So actually, my Supermoto, small yellow Honda, which is just over here, I call it the bike with the pedigree because now already it has 105,000 kilometers on it. And a lot of 1,000 kilometers of off-road. It was the only one I had before I got myself a Tenere. People would be like, why are you taking the road bike off-road? Are you going to buy me another bike? No. Well, I have to manage. I even did like 2 enduro meetings with it. And the Nordic Rally last year, I would take the front 21-inch front wheel enduro, put it, replace the Supermoto. And that was the only way to do it.
You were also mentioning about the story with your grandmother, right?
Grandfather, yeah. He was a mechanic. Came to lift a split, and he was actually running one huge mechanic workshop. So it was transferred to my uncle and my mom. Both of them used to ride. Our uncle is still riding, and actually my mom has not been riding in a long time. So for her 56th birthday, I got her a present, a motorcycle license. So we're going to ride together. It was like a present back because for my 16th birthday, she was the one telling me, listen, I know you're stealing my bike. I know you can ride. So this is what you get for your birthday. And because I want you to ride, I don't want you to sit with some other guy in whichever hour of the day, state of mind, because you can ride yourself. So I would have to collect the money from my breakfast at school to pour in gas, to pour in oil. So she did a good thing because she kind of even, let's say, concentrated me to be a good rider, to maintain the scooter at least. And yeah, so it all started back in high school. She had no idea actually what was it going to mean. And up until this year, when I started the tours, she was all the time like, you're spending so much money on the gas, tires. You've been riding the whole day. So I'm like, Mom, maybe this is getting somewhere. Remember, you are the one who started it all. It comes from you. And then she would just shut up. And now she's very happy and proud because she sees the outcome, the results, and she sees actually that, there's a point in all of that.
So, of course, very clearly, I think you like the trails as opposed to the highways. But I'm sure, from what I know of Croatia, is a lot of winding roads, a lot of small roads. So you must be having a great time actually running that down. I wish I could ride in Croatia someday for sure. We talked a little bit about the challenges that you faced, and in particular, as a girl, as a woman, when you're riding. And you said it's pretty much the same all over the world. So maybe you can walk us through some of the challenges, what people say, and so on and so forth.
There's a respect of women who ride. But then again, of course, it's like, oh, she's a woman, she rides. It took some time for me to actually get that real respect from men as a rider, as someone who knows how to ride, someone who really has that kind of the will to do it. Gaining experience actually is what made me gain respect. Yes, women are appreciated here who ride. More and more women ride. So it is still like a men's world, but it's kind of changed. So at the beginning, I was just being humble. I ride. That's what I do. I ride for my fun. I ride for my relaxation time, for my meditation time on two wheels. People accepted it like that. And then when they saw me riding more and more, realizing the experience, realizing actually my skills in it, that's when it all started coming. At first moment, people were a bit curious. There's a girl riding, let her ride. But then as the more time would pass, the more skills they would see, that's where they would be more and more convinced, like, there's a skill in it and there's an attitude. Challenges were you come to a group of men talking about riding. I even had a situation a few times like, oh, who did you come here with? And I was like, well, I came with myself and my bike. Oh, really? I was like, yes. Wow, you ride this? Cool. And then few of them, when they would ride with me, when we would stop, they would be like fist bumping, like, you ride like a guy. You actually ride even than most of the guys I know. And that's what actually made me also collect women from Croatia, mostly from my region, but also from Croatia. Third time this year to ride. It's only women riding. 3 years ago, I've never ridden with more than one woman with me. First year, I collected 12 women to ride together. Every first weekend of June, we ride together. Only women. Right. It's great to ride with guys. But it's also great to ride with girls. When you see the face under the helmet, you know it's a woman, someone like you. So that's beautiful.
Is there a particular ride that stands out in your memory as the most memorable ride?
There was once, I had an old Tenere 660. I'll never forget it. I checked the trail. Oh, there's a river, there's a going down, and there's serpentines on the other side. But if there's a straight way going down to the canyon and serpentines, that means that this way goes straight down. So yeah, Tenere 660 with more than 200 kilos and me sliding down. A little bit of sliding, a little bit of brake in the rear tires, sliding, brake, big rocks like this, small rocks, sand. I'll never forget it in my life. It came down all wet, took off everything.
Some of the most memorable trips would be, renting a bike while traveling for 3 months through South America. Rented a motorcycle in Peru, went to Machu Picchu, had a breakdown of a bike, which was actually bike's fault, something with the accelerator and stuff. The most wonderful moment of my life. I was getting back from Machu Picchu. One moment, the bike just stopped. There was nothing I could do about it. Checked everything I knew. Nothing. After 10 minutes, rain started. There was no signal on my mobile. There was no other way but to stop the next car driving by. The first car I looked at, two young guys, they looked at me and I made a signal for them to stop. They stopped. They said, "What's the problem?" And I said, "I don't know. The bike just stopped." And they said, "Well, you're lucky because we both ride motocross and you see the house up there? That's a restaurant I own. You see the house down there? That's the house I live in." And I looked at them and it just sounded too perfect. And the guy saw my look and he's like, "My mom is at my home. My younger brother is at home. Don't worry, we just want to help." And then I just rolled the bike down. We cleaned the carburetor. They did everything they could. And I continued riding for the next 70 kilometers. Beautiful off-road just above the canyon and river Urubamba. But then some 50 kilometers away from Cusco, the bike just stopped again. And that's when I had to call the agency for them to pick me up. So there was a big problem with the bike even before I took it. Another one would be also when I was riding, when I did the Balkan Rally, which was a road ride for 8 days across 6 countries, approximately 4,000 kilometers. So it was my small Honda 650 with another 30 BMW GS's 1200, 1250. So at one point after Croatia, Serbia, and Macedonia, I got a little bit bored with that fast road ride. And then I just looked at the organizer. He knew I was feeling a bit bored. And I said, can I? And then I just split away from them and I rode through Albania by myself. I did a famous SH20 serpentines and the road, and then a Tet National Park. It's just a beautiful mountain ride, nature ride. I remember myself screaming in my helmet and singing out of happiness just to be able to ride Albania finally for the first time by myself. That was the first, not the last. Definitely, I mean, those are some of the ones I remember the best. Definitely worth remembering. Besides me having a 2.5 days off from work in the middle of the summer as I work as a guide, taking my old Tenere XTZ 660, and for 2.5 days I rode through Montenegro because that was the only time I had. I went back home at 2 p.m. and I was at work at 4 p.m. after 2.5 days. So yes, it can be done. It's only a will that matters and some time you make for yourself. Besides, of course, the money. But, I pay the gas. I don't sleep in expensive accommodation. I even take a tent. I sleep in a tent. I can eat in restaurants if it's cheap, if I have to save money. If not, I take the pate and some bread and some sandwiches. So it can be done. It doesn't take a lot of money, just gas, a goodwill, and you're organized, something to eat, and that's what it matters.
How could you go up there all by yourself? How do you have the bravery to start riding yourself, go off-road into the unknown? I first started riding around my city, my region, Croatia, and then a little further and further. That's how I started. That's how I gained confidence. That's how I actually realized what might happen on the road, how to deal with some things. If I find myself in some unexpected situations, if my bike falls down, you need to learn how to lift it. I learned how to fix some things on the bike. The simple ones I can. I have all the tools with me all the time. I have some knowledge about it, and that's what it takes for the people, to gain confidence to start riding further, especially by themselves. It's not easy for one guy to go all by himself off-road, camp around, explore around, especially for a girl with like 60 kilos and big bike. Even though it might be a small bike, but if something happens, you just need to know how to deal at least with a simple thing.
Let's talk about rider safety, riding gear, road safety, stuff like that.
You always have to be aware of what's happening around, but it can always happen. So I have a scar over here. I have a scar on my knee because unexpected things happening. The car cutting you away, as how it usually happens. But the most important thing is, yes, you get experience by riding. You learn how to read drivers in a car, riders on the other bikes. But the gear, even in the summertime, when we go riding, like yesterday, I went to Bosnia. It was 40 degrees Celsius, but it was 40. But I put on at least sneakers with protecting ankles, summer gear, which means you feel the air, but it protects you, the shoulders, your elbows, and especially. So that's what it takes. At least that. I don't ever go riding without proper gear, motocross, enduro, or for traveling, ever, and tools. That's when you feel safe on the road, off-road, and that's what gives you the feeling like, yes, I can take that route, I can take that road. And you should know your bike first. Anyone who gets a new bike or anything, first you should know your capabilities, then a bike also. Slowly, little by little, taking the small routes, taking short strips. That's what gives you like the confidence. You can do it. There's the will always in it, but you have to match the will with capabilities and with actually capabilities of your own bike. Because the small Honda cannot match with the big Tenere or vice versa. Weight, the type of the motorcycle. So little by little. And that's something what I saw young riders do not have patience. Definitely. So road safety means you're knowing yourself, knowing the bike, reading the drivers and the traffic, how it goes, and being prepared for anything. If there is adrenaline in the speed, especially when you ride a supermoto, which leans into curves, it was meant for it. I love it. You never go till the end. You never go till the end of the bike, till the end of the throttle. It's there is adrenaline and all that, but there's a big part of the brain which screams out safety. So that what if is actually a good one because it keeps you concentrated and never allows you to go above above the limit of yourself and the bike. But with more and more traffic, drivers not being careful, cautious, riders also doing all sorts of things. Actually, that's what pushed me to start riding off-road more. There's no traffic there. We ride a lot slower. There's things to see on off-road. Off-road actually takes you places you would normally never see by taking the road. And the first thing was there's no traffic in there.
So talk to us a little bit about how you're developing your business and how you're arranging the tours, how people come to you. Typically, how many days of a ride do you organize? Is it 1 day, 2 days? Is it longer duration?
Well, the tours are concentrated more on like road ride combined with light off road. So people can, feel good about taking the bike and riding. Yes, there's also, if people can ride hard enduro, then we also take a bit harder trails. So it can be adjusted to the rider's experience. But the tours I created, I wanted them to show to the people what we have in here. It started from my own writing, posting photos on social media, people saying like, wow, it's beautiful, where it is. Oh, it's a beautiful trail. Can you show me the route? Can you send me the route? Or can you take me there? So I started taking people around. But then through social media, I got connected with the writers worldwide. Like my friend Emma, currently, she's staying here in Split. I'm riding around with her, showing her Croatia, showing her islands. Riders from Bosnia, riders from Austria, from all over the world. I meet with them, and then we ride together. And then I realized, wait, if worldwide riders like this, then why don't I show it to the wider range of people? With small bikes, we can go around. And so I created like a 1-day tour around Splits. On Brač Island, we do mostly off-road because it has amazing light off-road, scenic one from one side to the island to the top of the island. We explore around. Two-day tour on Vis Island, which I love. It's a beautiful small island with so many heritage on it, so many military heritage. So the tour actually takes people around the island and we enter military tunnels and explore. Well, I do 4-day tour, 7-day tour around the Croatia's highlands, the mountains, the scenic ones. The more I ride, the more inspiration and ideas I get. But also the tours can be based on people's experience and the time they have at their disposal. I'm using Instagram as Fun Moto Adventures. We started as Fun Moto Andrea, but then I realized it's all adventures with me. So it's Fun Moto Adventures. The same on YouTube.
So what are your plans now? Now that you've kind of set up your business, so what are your plans? What are your dreams? What are your ambitions? What actually drives you to do something that really stands out?
The goal is actually, I love writing. I love what I do. I love being a guide with the people. So it kind of all clusters in one same spot. And I just want to show people around. I want them to enjoy in some other way they may have never thought that they're going to experience in Croatia or around. The goal is actually to do what I love in life.
There's very few people who can actually live their passion, live their dream. Most people have a regular job and then they do motorcycling on the side, like I do, right? There's very few people who can actually make their business and their passion coincide. It takes a lot of courage to do that. It takes a lot of conviction to do that. Were you ever in a situation where you had a regular job and you had to give it up just to do riding? What were the sacrifices you made, if you made any?
It's been my hobby, an idea of maybe running motorcycle tours, but it was only a wish. Even when I was a kid traveling on a motorcycle, it was just a nice idea that might be happening to some other people in some other countries. Probably just loving it and living in that way, it all came kind of together. I may even sacrifice some other tours I do, since I'm a guide and I do semi-private tours. And some people told me, don't ever turn your hobby into a job because you'll get bored with it. And I just tell them, like, I want to do for living what I love. In that way, I will wake up in the morning without a grudge. I will wake up feeling good. I told my friends, I have to try. If I don't try, I will never know. And I have the will now. Doing the tours, renting a motorcycle is what I love. So it kind of also changed my lifestyle. I have to be more fit. I have to be more active and kind of prepared for anything.
I think it's also important to connect with the people who ride. Is exchanging knowledge, exchanging experience, actually getting to know about some certain locations you would normally never know. Some people I have already met face to face. They stayed at my place in Split, or I took them around. Some people I still have not met. We know each other through the social media and we exchange some experiences. It's nice to know, it's nice to see where people ride in US, in South America, in Central America, Africa. It's nice to follow people who kind of take you around the world virtually before we have a chance to ride the same places they do. Some places for us are out of reach. Some places we will never get to see in our lives because they're so distant, or we just don't have the time or the money to see them all. But that's also the beauty of the social media. You get to hear everyone's experiences. You get to see so many beautiful locations around the world. Unfortunately, there's only one life we're living, and there's always a balance between working, living, having enough for living, having enough time for traveling, and enough money. So if we cannot combine and balance all those things to get to see everything we can, that's what it makes it so special then to connect with the people who travel to locations we would like to see. Maybe we'll never have a chance. Hopefully we will. Why we ride? Some people ride to escape the reality, to relax, to meditate on two wheels, and to get the inspiration, to get certain ideas, to think about certain things in your head, whether the good, whether the bad. Definitely after a few hours of riding, maybe just a few kilometers, riding in the way you love, how you love, and where you love to ride, definitely we all come back from the riding feeling a lot more relaxed, different, balanced process within us. We ride to travel, to get to see things. We ride to explore. Those are all the reasons to ride. Regardless of the personal reason people have to ride, it's all a good reason to ride, and all those reasons make us better people, motivate us, and inspire us. So just ride.
I wish we could have done this face to face, really, but so we will have you over in India at some point in time, I think, and maybe we'll come and ride in Croatia.
I will have you in Croatia riding with me around. I really want to. Now you have a new friend in Croatia.
Absolutely.
And, I realized also a few years ago, Croatia is becoming more and more popular with especially what it has to offer to riders, ADV riders. The options are numerous with our routes, with roads, off-roads, landscape, mountains. You're going to love it. But little by little, take steps. Get to know yourself, the bike, It's one thing when you take 1 day trip around, you come home. If you want to travel, first test yourself, 2 days or 3, see how you behave. See what kind of person you are when you're tired, when you're not yourself. That means a lot. And that's when people actually show their personality the most. And when you kind of go through that, then you will know actually what kind of rider you are. Also, if you don't feel like the bike is maybe not, doesn't fit you the best, try, take a ride on some other's bike. Maybe the bike, that one is not the best for you. Don't force yourself. That is the worst. Just feel comfortable on a bike. Feel free on a bike. Don't let the motorcycle, just because it's a brand or it's a cool bike, don't let the motorcycle actually put limits on your ride.
A lot of people buy bikes because of the brand and because of the sex appeal of the bike. And I think initially, I think it's wow. You see a fancy bike and oh, wow. You see a really super bikes and you say, oh, fantastic. But maybe really not worth it. There's too much power. You're not going to do too much with it. There's higher risk. It's higher cost to maintain and so on and so forth. So I think what you say is right. Finding the right balance between, your riding style and the kind of bike that you ride is so very important.
Traveling a motorcycle is something completely different from any other traveling. Yes, flying to somewhere is great. You get to see the land and everything from different perspective. Backpacking is another type of adventure, especially if you do it by yourself. It takes you places. If you're by yourself, you're actually never alone because you get to meet wonderful people in traveling, in hostels, or having a coffee or a beer by yourself, sitting somewhere. The views, the looks of the people who travel solo can be recognized, and you just look at each other and you start talking. Same thing with the bike. Traveling on a motorcycle is when you're present in each and every way, in each and every situation, in each and every smell. Look, the color of the sky. Yes, it can be seen also in a car, but it's not the same. The smells, the scents you feel from the cattle, from the village smells driving through small villages and back roads, from the smell of the seaside pine trees you feel riding down the coastline, or the freshly mown grass traveling through inland of some countries. The forest smells, it can all be felt much better while on a motorcycle. And because you have to be aware of everything, you just feel everything more intense. Every situation you're in, every curve, every view, you have to be 100% on the road, on the off-road you're traveling, and that's where you feel everything a lot better. And that's why I chose always to travel on motorcycle as much as I can. I want to be present in where I am in that moment, especially when you stop with a bike and people look at you like, wow, you're a motorcycle traveler. It used to be much more surprising for the people, especially the back roads, when a lot less people used to travel on bikes. Now there's more and more people traveling, but still, always when you take your helmet off, your jacket off, people ask you like, hey, are you cold? Are you hot? Would you like some water? Do you need anything? How is it traveling on a motorcycle? Where have you been? People approach you, people talk to you, you exchange the knowledge, you share the experiences, and it's so much different than any other traveling. And that's why I always chose to travel on a motorcycle.
It's so nice talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on to this podcast series called The Rider's DNA. Keep us posted and tag me on some of your stories or your reels. I'd be very happy to share that.
Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. I've seen so many cool riders talking to you, sharing their experience. So it's so nice to be a part of such community, to be invited to be a part of such group. Thank you for the respect for inviting me also. Continue writing, to continue doing what you're doing with the podcasts, because more and more people listen to it. And it's so nice to know that more and more people take in consideration other riders, their experiences, and their knowledge. So I'll continue also listening to your podcasts because, sharing is gaining experience, connecting with the people. So thank you for making me part of it.